Good morning, my name is Jeffrey Petrone, and on today's video, I thought I would do something that I've been meaning to sort of get into, which is to do more top 10. Here's my favorite. And this was inspired by an upcoming book that's going to be released from TCM, their books. The person who wrote this book also wrote another book for them that I still need to read called Summer Movies. This chair makes a lot of noise. Summer Movies. And this upcoming book in October is called Rewinding the 80s, written by John Malahy, a very talented, very knowledgeable film I don't know how to writer, film enjoyer, person who gave me this TCM hat that I had the good fortune of meeting and befriending somewhat when I went to Atlanta. And because of this book on the 80s, I thought it might be interesting to do top 10. Here's my favorite 10 80s movies. And there's a lot of things that could have gone on this list. I included two honorable mentions, but I tried to have it be a specific, these are films that I have on physical media in some capacity, whether it be DVD. I don't think any of these are on DVD, although one might have, it does, whether it be DVD, Laserdisc, Blu-ray, VHS, Betamax, 4K, whatever. So without further ado, I'm gonna take from this pile and try to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna split the 10 movies into two piles and then just hack slash, because I'm a hack. And I'm assuming whoever is watching this is a fan of notable 80s band Guns N' Roses featuring the guitar. I am then shot in the face 87 times. So, without further ado, and this isn't in order, any particular order, but I am going from a list instead of top to bottom, bottom to top. And a few things you're gonna gather from this is I really like Dennis Hopper, and I really am enamored by Joe Spinell. So we're going to start off with the 1986 film Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. This is a Scream Factory release on Blu-ray. There's been other releases. I know at one point Vinegar Syndrome did a really solid 4K. I think Arrow is going to be doing a 4K, but there's been definitely beefier releases. But this is a reversible, I'm forgetting words, but this is the release that I got. It is a sequel to the 70s horror film classic slasher. I don't even really know how. It's not a slasher. Is it a slasher? No idea. I have not really even seen that movie. This is oddly, I mean the first one is too, but this takes the comedy levels that seem to be somewhat present in the first movie and just Jackson. Dennis Hopper is some kind. I was gonna say he's a sheriff, but he's a Texas Ranger, which is even fucking more. Because of course a Texas Ranger would be like, yeah, I got this. I'm gonna fight him with 2 chainsaws. It's just incredibly stupid. But more seriously,
Find that lady into tiny little pieces.
A neo-noir. Up next, a 85 movie. Speaking of interesting combinations, this is Walking the Edge. The antagonist, the villain in this movie is Joe Spinell, who does a very sweaty, menacing job as Joe Spinell was known to do. 1985, but the thing about this movie that is sort of interesting to me is that it pairs Nancy Kwan with Robert Forster, and it is a really interesting 80s LA movie with some just odd musical choices both on the score, and I believe there's a scene of a punk band playing in the movie, but it is a fascinating neo-noir from the 1980s that I really enjoyed, and this is the release of the movie, although I don't think it's currently super available, or at least the one with the slipcover. You might be able to, in some capacity, find it used, but this was released by Fun City Editions. Next up is a film that is more widely available, and once again, it's a film where I have a Blu-ray edition, and it has somewhat more known higher grade editions, although in this case, this is 1981's Thief, Michael Mann, another neo-noir, whereas opposed to the previous film, LA, this is a really, Walking the Edge is a sort of like forgotten film. This is a really celebrated, I'm forgetting who the director of Walking the Edge is, unfortunately, but Thief is a very celebrated, I think, directorial debut. Debut feature for its director, and it's a very celebrated, well-known film for him, Michael Mann, who's gone on to a plethora of other cinematic endeavors. Criterion Edition, there's a 4K that came out not that long after I bought this some time ago, but I did finally watch it, and it's just so many things. Dennis Farina, James Caan. I mean, I just love Dennis Farina. He has a kind of small part in this, but it's just how wet the streets look, and just the way it's shot, just the pressure of it. It's a very cool movie, and James Caan is fan-fucking-tastic. And then next up is a 1982. Nope. Wrong. Next up is a 1980 movie. And this is the second Star Wars film, The Empire Strikes Back. Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. I have two editions of this on VHS. It is just a nice, snowy, I don't specifically know why, it's just always had a particular resonance with me, and yeah, just having it on VHS is something that I really enjoy, because that is, I believe, how I originally watched these growing up, although I think I might have, because the editions that I had, there's a set that I believe I got from my uncle's house who passed away and lived next door to me, or used to before when he was living. And that's what this one is from. But then there's a set of special edition original trilogy that is at my grandparents, my dad's parents' house, that might have been the editions that I originally watched. So I'm pretty sure the original trilogy I originally watched on VHS. I don't have specific memories, but just judging on some evidence in that capacity. Next, speaking of puzzling evidence, we've got a film featuring the song Puzzling Evidence, and it's 1986's True Stories, directed by David Byrne. I was really considering putting Stop Making Sense, but I didn't want there to be two Jonathan Demme movies. We'll get to that. And this is another Criterion Collection edition, and they really did, I'm not going to go into everything here, but they did a fantastic bang-up job with this film. But the reason I'm mentioning it is that it just has such a interesting look at the 80s. Just, there's things like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and like there's these like ways that malls are shot, but there's just this sort of way that David Byrne acts like an alien in regards to, oh wow, look, it's the mall. That makes it sort of like a truly fascinating movie. And also, John Goodman is the lead, early lead from John Goodman. Now, two honorable mentions just in the middle are kind of horror-y thriller films, but more importantly, they're two films about film-obsessed weirdos that then start killing people. And we're going to start with a DeGauser video, although this has been, I think, released from other people. But this is a 1980 movie, and one that I'm really happy to have on VHS, although this was also, DeGauser, I think, also released this as a Blu-ray, as they tend to do a disc and a VHS, doesn't matter. DeGauser video, some of the best current modern VHS releases in the game, bar mostly none. But this is a very odd, off-putting movie. I'm forgetting who is in, I think like Eric Roberts or something. There's like a very odd early performance of someone in like an antagonistic role, but it's just it's early things of insufferable movie fans being like, I bet you wouldn't know that what's this person's thing in. But you didn't know what it's just, and like the way that a lot of these films like approach it with some heart, but like for the most part, this particular guy in Fade to Black is really, really unsettling to watch. Not that this next film isn't, but there's an interesting angle with this where it's sort of more comedy, and this is the last horror film. 7 films released, 4K, came with a booklet with some really great writing on the film by the film's producer and someone who was in the film, Judd Hampton. How not to make a film. It also includes a interview and some interview with David Winters, the director of the film, at the con. Film Festival. Now the thing with this, if you heard a slight rattle, is shit. Occasionally, the way that discs are structured, it'll kind of not be as firmly launched in, but I really do love this presentation of this 1982 horror comedy film with a weird lead from Joe Spinell. And interesting thing is that the character, both of these films have a mom character, although Fade to Black, it's a much more complicated relationship. In the last horror movie, Joe Spinell's character's mom is in fact played by his real life mom, and the movie ends with his mom being like, "That's all well and good that you killed a bunch of people, but can I have a joint, please?" And that's comedy. Following that, we have a 1982 film from Francis Ford Coppola, and specifically I'm talking about the reprise edition, because that's the one that I've seen, but this is One from the Heart, American Zoetrope. This is sort of Coppola's big swing and miss at a studio musical, and yet I really love it, and it has a score featuring music from partially Tom Waits. Following that, we have 1988, and that is a Studio Canal Lionsgate 4K. Following that, we have another Fun City Editions movie, and this is, I believe, sold out and would be one of the more harder things to come by, but I really love this as an 80s movie, and just the depiction of a sort of side of the women in the orbit of the mob. And it's Jonathan Demme's 1988 movie, Married to the Mob. It's got great performances from, what the fuck is his name? Not Harry Dean Stanton. Dean Stockwell, who was in a number of movies, but also in the 80s. He was in, very influentially, Paris, Texas, and Blue Velvet. Paris, Texas does not have Dennis Hopper, but Blue Velvet does. Not that this movie does. Anyway, this stars Michelle Pfeiffer, and it is, I just love it. I love the music here. Matthew Modine has like this contraption to help him get dressed. He plays an FBI agent. Oliver Platt, I think is his name, also plays an FBI agent. Also, Joe Spinell is also in this movie, and it's, I think, one of his last film roles, unfortunately. But following that, we have a film directed by, that sounded like shit, a film directed by Dennis Hopper, Out Blue, from 1980. And it also features a quite substantial, not lead, but fairly supporting performance from Dennis Hopper. The film is largely carried by a child actor performance from Linda Manns, is I believe her name, and she does a phenomenal job of playing this Elvis and Johnny Rotten obsessed kid. And the film makes great use of two Neil Young songs. It is a Canadian movie. This is also from Seven Films, released by Seven Films, Blu-ray edition. There's also 4K that is available. Next up, we have a 1989 Jim Jarmusch movie, the way it the thing about, I'll just say one quick thing about Out of the Blue, the way that like rural, not rural, but like more rural-ish, like the way that like a part of Canada is shot and presented in this movie during the time period of the 80s is really interesting to me. Also, Raymond Burr shows up for 2 scenes as a child psychiatrist, which is very odd to see. But more importantly, Mystery Train, the way that Memphis, Tennessee is filmed in the 1980s is just deep, and just the love of Memphis that is presented here. Fascinating movie. Tom Waits actually has a vocal appearance as a radio DJ. There's a phenomenal use of a relatively early recording from Elvis, a cover of the Lorenz and Hart song, or Hart and Rogers. What the fuck is it? No, I think it's Lorenz and Hart. Blue Moon. That recording from Elvis is, if you don't like Elvis, you might not like this movie. But it's more people that like Elvis. Joe Strummer is in the film, and I think also appears playing Elvis briefly in a dream. Screaming Jay Hawkins is it works at a hotel, a seedy hotel. Early Steve Buscemi appearance. It's a very captivating movie. If you like or have heard of Ghost Dog, I think you'll really enjoy the Don't Call It an Enigma. It's just like a weird like puzzle, like the way that the film is structured with these 3 kind of not super connected, but everything, there's like a sort of event that vaguely happens that just kind of synchronizes the events into basically, it all kind of takes place over the course of one night. So if you're into those kind of films, you might really enjoy Mystery Train. Following that, we have, just in terms of the 1980s movies, this kind of goes beyond the 80s into something else, but this is a 1987 Wim Wenders movie, Wings of Desire, and it's just one of the best movies. I mean, a lot of these are some of the best movies of all time, but this especially is one of the best movies of all time, and it really just captures and shows the city of Berlin in truly such an amazing fashion. Really some just otherworldly performances. Nick Cave is in the movie, and they sort of make extensive use of him literally playing music, including a song called From Her to Eternity. I almost said From Here to Eternity, the movie, because that is getting played somewhat in the nearby vicinity to me at a relatively nearby date to this time. But what is important to mention, what is sort of the summation of my love for this movie? Why does it represent the 80s? There's a lot of a not insignificant portion of this movie is befuddled Germans looking at Peter Falk, and in German, but very clear, even without the subtitles, but like just very clearly being like, "Hey, is that Columbo?" And that's
Nee, glaube ich nicht.
That's a not insignificant amount of the movie. It's just people being like, "Oh mein Gott, it is Columbo."